Welcome to Boss Gals Talking Tea, where we empower professional women to reach new heights of success, where we foster a supportive environment that aids in unlocking endless possibilities for professional and leadership development. If you enjoy the episode, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
In this evening, this special episode, we are trying to celebrate, and we are going to celebrate Yolanda's 55th birthday. And I am super excited because what better way to celebrate than to talk about growth, passion, and how to take care of yourself, how to be kinder to yourself. So I am your host, Tyresa. I am an intern for the Boss Gals, and I'm truly excited, truly happy to be here. A little nervous on the shaky side, but that is okay. We're going to talk about what we got to talk about. So let's go ahead and introduce our guests, and we'll also introduce Yolanda. So whoever wants to go first.
I'll go next. First of all, happy birthday to my friend Yolanda. I am Erika, initially a work friend of Yolanda and now a true friend of Yolanda. I'm a homegrown Charlottean. I'm a true girl's girl, sister friend, all of that. And I too will be celebrating my double nickel this year. So Yolanda and I are true sister. We share the same birth year. Happy to be here.
Yes. And of course, as you all know, I am the co-host of and partner of Boss Gals Talking Tea, and always have to give props to my co-host with the mostest, Casey, the people's publicist, who is behind the scenes making this all go down. And so I'm just excited. I'm excited today.
Awesome. So now that we are getting into it, I think the first question to really bring in, what are you grateful for right now? Like, especially on this special day of yours, what are you grateful for?
Listen, I've been celebrating since Friday or Saturday. But also, coming up to today, and then all during the day, I've just been, thinking about just my life, right? Kind of all through my life. And of course, the regular things I'm grateful for, right? My family, my friends, my home, my health, right? But, I was talking to my cousin, and I was like, I'm grateful that, like, I still have ideas and I still have dreams, right? That I'm getting ready to start the next chapter, right? I still have laughter, right? I still have the strength. I mean, I'm grateful that I have the strength that it took to survive some of the things that I don't always talk about, right?
True.
Grateful for my experiences, my mistakes, even some of the disappointments in my life, right? Grateful for growing and starting over and the ability to pay it forward, right? And so, I'm so grateful for those things, and most especially, I'm grateful to God for bringing me to this point in my life.
Amen.
That's what I'm grateful for today.
Okay, and Erika, do you have anything you're grateful for? I know you're arriving onto the double nickels as well. So
That's right.
You're grateful for in your life?
Ditto everything Yolanda said. And for me, and it may come out a little later, I am grateful for my transformational change in really finding the real Erika and living my best life. Never too late. I feel like I'm a little early, but I've arrived in a place that I didn't even know I needed it. I didn't know I was different, but I am grateful for the journey I too have been on, and to arrive where I am today. You don't take it lightly, because you've been where you've been. You really are grateful for where you are now. That's my story on that one. Yeah.
So I love that for both of you guys. I really think that both of you, like you said, I think being grateful for things and just taking a moment to realize how much you are grateful for, like how much you're blessed.
Right.
We take it for granted all the time. So I really want to get into something that we're really here for, the journey of self-compassion. How would you guys explain self-compassion to somebody who's never heard of it? Or we heard of self-love, but never heard of really self-compassion talked about like that.
I'm going to let Erika take that one, because this is her baby.
This is my baby. I know people are sick of me, but when you find something in your life that changes your life, you can't help but to tell others. Mm-hmm. The way I would describe self-compassion, there's a piece of it that is different than self-love and self-care. We hear about self-love and self-care. We think about getting our nails done, getting massages. That's wonderful. What self-care is treating yourself like you would treat a friend who is suffering or who is in pain. That's that next piece of it. A lot of times self-care and self-love, there doesn't have to be a disclaimer, but self-compassion is truly finding a way to be your own best friend when you are going overwhelmed with emotions, when you're struggling, when you're in pain. And it makes a difference in how you practice it and how you get through it.
That's so awesome. And I feel like for our co-host, do you have anything on self-compassion? Like maybe your definition of it? We'd like to hear maybe what you think about self-compassion in your life.
The thing is, because I hadn't heard of it myself, right, until Erika started talking about it, and and she talks about being your own best friend and kind of what that looks like, and we women can be so tough on themselves, like extremely tough on themselves.
And I will say,
right.
Yes.
But they're kind to everyone else, right? If my bestie is on here telling me happy birthday, if I'm on the phone with her having a conversation and she's telling me some things, I will tell her, give herself grace, or it's okay, or one of those kinds of things. But we have a really difficult time saying that to ourselves and saying it's okay, whatever the okay is, right? Whatever the thing is. And so, I think, when you get to this age, right, and you've experienced a lot, you've seen a lot, you've done a lot, and the gift really of self-compassion, I think, is crucial to be able to just really live a good life.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think you really hit it on the nail. For a lot of us, we overlook, we give it to others so easily. And then when we're home alone, we shut the door. We are so hard on ourselves. We talk about how much we love somebody, how much we care for them, support them. And then with ourselves, we're like, well, you gotta do better. And then I just hate that. But I do love compassion. I think that should be a seed for this year too. What situations that you would be in where you kind of like realize now I didn't give myself enough self like back then? Yes.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah,
I was raised to go and conquer the world, and raised with so much intensity, and you end up being performative, and really only thing that matters are the outcomes, not the journey to get there. So where I know you can almost say, Tyresa, from a child through, college, grad school, marriage, it was never about self-compassion. It was about how I showed up for everybody else and what did it look like on the outside, regardless of what I was feeling on the inside. We're not trained to feel. Yes. We're trained to do. That's and right. when you execute and can tell yourself, and it's a practice to pivot and turn inward and become your own inner ally versus your own inner enemy, it changes everything. From grades, if it wasn't an A or A minus, if the world was coming to an end.
Oh, yes.
If you didn't get in that certain graduate school, then, oh my God, I failed. That is Erika, lack of self-compassion.
I had a lot of self-compassion. I was just like, oh, well.
Yeah. I was like, this woman is so cool as far as letting stuff go quickly.
But there were some things. I'm talking about like my grades, right? I was just like,
I
was a C+ student, B- at best in high school. But there were things that I did not give myself grace about, right? When you think about, and I think about, a lot of women, right? We, some women, let me not say a lot, some women, we choose the wrong person, right? Whether it's boyfriend or spouse or whatever, right? Sometimes we overstay in a relationship or a situation, and we're beating ourselves up for that. There are women out there who have gone through a divorce, and they're beating themselves up about this failed relationship, just all sorts of things. And, you're looking at, or if your children, like, don't turn out or didn't turn out the way you imagine. I mean, I know even in recent years have been like, what, like, what did I miss? Right. Because now I'm blaming myself. What did I miss? When I was going through my divorce, or leading up to it, trying to do everything right. Right. What could I have done better? What could I have done more? Right. And we are so quick to do that and not, first of all, be like, okay, yes, I may have some accountability, but I certainly should not be beating myself up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And even if I was actually wrong in the situation, even if I was wrong in a situation, there's still room, right, to forgive myself and give myself some grace, because we're not going to always get it right. We're just not going to.
And I will speak on that. I feel like, especially for me, I'm 24. A lot of women in their 20s, we grew up getting self-compassion, getting compassion from everybody else. We were fed it. And it's like, now that I'm alone and I have to kind of exercise doing it all, it was a hard start. It was a hard start. And it was a lot of times where I just felt like I can't be a coach to myself because I got it from somebody else. Or, you don't have your parents telling you need to come home with straight A's no more. It's you need to come home with those A's or you going to get kicked out. It's either one. So I feel like I love what you said about just making sure that it's also you just being your own best friend. Like, you have to show up for yourself as if you were talking to your best friend. And I love everything you said. I wanted to ask that, with self-compassion, like, through it, what changed over time? Like, what things that you did before that you can do now? And you said, I have self-compassion, like even confidence. Like, how did your confidence gain from that?
Oh, it's big. I mean, Yolanda, did you want to? I can definitely take that.
Go ahead.
It has changed everything. What self-compassion, I could go into a whole lesson. Self-compassion has 3 elements: self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. And that is self-compassion. So, self-kindness, how do you tell yourself quickly, it's okay, get over it? Mm-hmm. One thing that self-kindness allows you not to do is not to exaggerate your situation. So let's say you messed up a presentation. My background has always been in operation, logistics, COO type work. So you got a lot on you that you don't own, but you have to make go smoothly. If I used to mess up a presentation or the teleprompter didn't come up right, I'll beat myself up for days. Self-kindness says quickly, because then you say, oh my God, I'm not any good at this job. Then I'm not any good. Then again, self-compassion helps you stop with the exaggerations and what you call ruminating. When you play it, how many times do those negative tapes go on over and over again? That's self-kindness. Common humanity reminds you we are interconnected as human beings. What I'm going through may not be exactly what Yolanda's been through, but we have an interconnection that we all make mistakes. We all have moments of failure. Failure is a big word, but where things didn't come out right, as Yolanda was saying, or you were even wrong. We are all interconnected that way. When you have that common humanity, that I'm not alone, that helps you change from being depressed to being a little happier faster, from being ashamed of things to going out and getting more physically active, from being, self-deprecating to lifting yourself up. And then last, mindfulness. I feel like during COVID, that's when a lot of us leaned into meditating and journaling and counting backwards from 10 and focusing on that tree over there. We really leaned into mindful. I mean, how many, do you ever think a day would come where one day at work, we're doing mindfulness exercises? But it's absolutely, that is what it is. Turning inward and taking a deep breath. And what self-compassion question, not only treating yourself like your own best friend, but here's the question, Tyresa, that everyone should know about self-compassion. When you're overwhelmed and you turn inward, you ask yourself, what do I need right now? That changed everything. Because when you're in it,
I like that.
You're in everybody, you're worried about everything. But if you stop, ground the soles of your feet, breathe and say, what do I need right now? Sometimes for me, I just need to let the cry out, just cry. Sometimes it was going for a walk. Sometimes I'm really good about dialing up a friend. When I get a little overwhelmed and I can't down regulate, me picking up the phone and just kind of having a release valve. But like you said, Tyresa, when you're 24, parents, I'm so proud to hear people, your age and my daughter's age, we're doing something right at our age where we're giving our children maybe the self-compassion we get as children. But you're right. You now have to show up for you when you're by yourself and mom and dad are not there to tell you how wonderful and great you are. Yeah. That's what self-compassion does. It makes you have to show up for yourself and say, what do I need right now? So that, dial a friend. So, go for a walk, have a glass of wine, give yourself permission to stop, but give yourself permission to do what you need to do right now for you.
And I love that. And going back, I'm definitely going to ask myself every day, what do I need right now? In this
right now.
Something I overlook. I always think about, what do this person need around me? Is anybody on my messages? Anybody need me right now? And I don't answer to myself, what do I need? So I love that. And I want to say from earlier, I feel like the biggest thing with us growing up is the performative, like make sure to hold a reputation. So what is it like when it comes to wanting to help yourself, but you still compare yourself to others? Like, I know I'm guilty, especially social media content influencer. I'm always comparing. I'm always wondering, why don't I look like this? Why can't I sound like this? Why can't I be like her? But what does self-compassion kind of implement to where I don't compare myself?
So, I'm in a great place now with not comparing myself, but it took me some time to get there, Tyresa. It took me some time to get there. I'll tell you what kind of took me over the hump. So first of all, I actually really believe that I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
We forget that.
I'm going to say that again. I actually started believing, not reading, not hearing, started believing that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, that I am unique, that the gifts that God has given me are unique to me. Even when there's some things, some skills and things that I have that are similar to other people, the way they're expressed through me is unique. And so when you really believe that and you really understand that, then you know that there is no comparison. Nobody can beat me at being me. Absolutely nobody. And I don't have to look to my left. I don't have to look to my right. The other thing is, each of our journeys are unique, right? When we were prepping, and Erika knows, I'm not going to say her name, but knows a woman that works where we work, right? Who is a very, very high up executive where we work. I'm not, right? She's been at the company for a very long time, almost right out of college. And I came in the company 12 years ago, almost at the bottom, right? At 40 something years old, almost at the bottom. And as a matter of fact, I have dinner with her this week, the woman that I'm talking about. Now, I could, right, get stuck in, I should be where she is. But that's not the journey that God took me on. And when I say God took me on, God took me on. He had me over here. He had me over here. He had me pouring into this person. He had me doing some nonprofit stuff. He had me, working at my university. He had me come in where I came in. And so, now don't get me wrong. Every once in a while, right, there's a little thought. But then I remember and remind myself, right, talk to myself quickly and say, your journey is different. You are where you're supposed to be right now, where you are, because of the things that God has done through you, to you, for other people through you, right? I'm right exactly where I need to be today. But going back, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. There's no other Yolanda Thorne on this earth who can do what I do and be who I
Yeah.
am.
I mean, that's perfect. I almost don't want to piggyback on you, Yolanda, but I would say, Tyresa, mine came from a different angle. You know, when you've been through some things, as we say, and you go through grieving and you're hurting, and
Mm-hmm.
when it's time to, when you're not, and then the years before that, you were so busy comparing yourself to what you didn't have, what really made me stop doing that was, wow, I am choosing to be happy with where I am
That's
today,
right.
because I have had the other side of this where I lost so many people in my life, or very significant people in my life, and that pain and that hurt, it takes you down and you have to get up. You're not thinking about who has a house or who can carry this bag and what letters behind their name. And I had to find mine, because I said, you know what? If this is the way I keep living, and we always say YOLO, YOLO, we truly only have one life. And
That's right.
after losing a sister and seeing her stop at 43 and losing my person, my dad, seeing that, I mean, just one day here, one day not, I'm like, wow, if I don't stop and live this very life for me, and find joy between the things that we can't control, this is gonna be a miserable life, and I deserve to not have I don't, I'm what you see when people see me, you see joy. I'm always smiling. I'm a big E for extrovert, so I exude joy. But inside there was some sadness, because I was always wondering, did I add up to what I was supposed to be, what others think I
Mhm.
am? And I had to let that go, because I saw the other side of it, which was when I couldn't control what was happening to my life. So if I can control not focusing on everyone else, but focusing on me, I made a dogmatic decision to no longer focus on what everybody else was doing, or comparing myself
That's
in a
right.
negative way to other people.
Awesome. And I do love that. I feel like, especially right now, I feel everybody's in a kind of mindset where we do want to be better for ourselves. And it's so hard because social media kind of puts an image on what better looks like. And we're not unique no more with it. Nobody wants to be a better them. They want to be a better Beyonce. They want to be a better Rihanna. Like, nobody wants to be a better Tyresa. Nobody wants to be a better Yolanda. Nobody wants to be, yeah. And I think it's so many times that we fight that mind of wishing that I was here. So like my next question is, what would you tell women that think that they should be further along? Like people who are getting houses at 19, people are millionaires at 24, and it's like, I only make 20 an hour and it's only 24 years old. So I'm not getting.
I mean, I think this, kind of the same things, right? you know, it, I think, when I was growing up, when we were growing up, right? Double nickels. When we were growing up, we didn't have social media, right? And so, the only thing you had to kind of compare yourself to was TV. And it was kind of easy, right, to not do that so much, because it just wasn't real. Thank you. Well, first of all, okay, listen, my sisters are in effect on this podcast, wishing me happy. I was talking about y'all. I was talking about all of y'all before it started. Thank you, everybody. But we didn't have the same things that you all have now. Really, we have now too, right? Where we see what we think are other people's lives. Some of it is real, some of it not so much, right? And so you can easily feel like you're behind, right? And I mean, even whatever it is that you're doing, right? I have a podcast, right? And I can look at some of the podcasts that are just so so successful, and be wondering, well, dang, I only have X many followers, right? This many likes. And again, being able to refocus, right? Understanding where you are right now, why you're where you're at, and being, and I'm gonna say this carefully, being content, right, with where God placed you. Not complacent.
Right.
Not
Not
complacent.
complacent, but content, right? For this season until he urges you to do something else. And so, you know, I don't know. It's very easy to get distracted.
Oh yes.
With all that's going on. And I think even, you know, me and probably even you, Erika, at times, right, can get distracted with kind of what we see. And
it's okay. Just don't stay there long.
exactly.
What I wrote down on that one was, or what I thought through, first, according to who, you know, I have learned, and I'm telling you, we're not going to be distracted on this conversation. If we would stop as a country, stop self-imposing things on ourselves. I know I'm double talking. A lot of the things we put on ourselves are self-imposed. So when someone says when a woman thinks she should be further along, my first question is according to who? Now, once you take that as self-assessment, and if it's yours, then take an objective look at what you think you should do. Make an assessment. To Yolanda's point, because I too was struggling. I don't want you to be complacent, but I want you to, you know, peace be still. But take that self-assessment and look forward. That's my message. The thing about self-compassion, remember I told you about exaggerating your pain and
that's right.
ruminating over your pain. That's the past. Go forward. So if you think you should be farther along, then let's get busy. Let's get a 36, you know, I can help you out in 30, 60, 90 days. That's what I do. But no, move forward. I saw her happen, you know, being technology. That was cool.
And look, I hope I'm saying his name right. Froditude. I'm jacking it all up. But she asked, she's on IG's.
That's
asking, is that your aunt? Hi. What are some lessons we've learned from our lowest points? From our lowest point.
Wow. So we're gonna go with that one. Yeah. Oh wow.
Hey, that's a deep one.
So, yeah, so I'll start. I think my lowest point, my lowest point was back when I was married and my ex-husband was dealing with addiction. And if anybody has, you know, I think most of us either have a family member or know somebody, right, who has dealt with addiction. If it was somebody close to you and your family, you know how hard that is. And I remember the lowest point was when the pain was so bad that I had a thought to go use drugs myself because I wanted the pain to go away. And almost immediately, and I can't really explain it, but God gave me some relief right in that moment. And here's what I learned, right? So I have a heart for hurting women, right? That's the passion that God gave me, a heart for hurting women. And it was in that moment, because I can remember being that person would be like, I'm just too blessed to be depressed. I'm just too blessed to be stressed. Honey, let me tell you something. Being blessed does not exempt you from being depressed or being stressed or any of those things, right? It was in that moment, or when I kind of came out of the moment where God was showing me that the difference between me and the person who is on drugs is him. That was it, right? That was it. At my lowest, though, you know, he showed me some grace because I had the thought. He showed me some mercy. He showed me some kindness, right? He did all those things, although I was kind of a little all over the place. And he brought me out.
Amen.
Right? He brought me out. And so in my lowest point, it gave me the mind to have grace for other people, right? I know we're talking about self-compassion, but it showed me that at any point, right, anything could happen. Our life could change in just an instant, and it gave me even more to be grateful for. Mm-hmm. Right? It gave me even more to be grateful for. And truth be told, when you get that low, shoot, it only goes up from there, right? So thank you, Lord. It only goes up. Now that season lasted for a period of time, but he kept me through it. And in our prep session, Erika, we talked about how we don't look like what we've been through. Let me tell you something. First of all, let's acknowledge how good we look at 55. First of all, let's look at this collagen in the skin and how good we look at 55.
Yes.
Right. But we don't look like what we've been through. Our smile doesn't reflect what we've been through. Right? Some of the hard times that we've been through. Our smiles reflect the fact that God has continued to walk with us through it. And even when there were tough times, when you look at your life at 55 years, I mean, you've had ups, downs, sideways, everything, right?
Yes.
But it's so much to be grateful for. Listen, y'all gonna get me to singing on here, and I can't sing. I mean, sing, but
Yolanda, you really hit it all. But I would tell you, the question for me was giving myself time to heal. Mm-hmm. I mentioned my sister, I mentioned my dad, but 2021 is when I had to discover something, because for the first time in my life, I could not push through. And I couldn't understand why I was still struggling. Yes. Of course, we now know grief is not linear. I'm a check the list kind of woman. Grief, check. Go to the funeral, check. Go see the graveyard, check. Go, cry, go on a trip. I was checklisting my grief. And when I couldn't push through, I have never been so low in my life, and nothing that naturally would worked. And so with my therapist, that's where self-compassion came from. But even still, because, self-compassion, it's a practice. I didn't get it overnight. I really have grown into it, because on top of my grief, I had guilt. Was I a great big sister to Keisha? Did she know how much I loved her? All of those things on top of. But as I was trying to find my way back to work, I mean, I was struggling, because usually work is where we can put on that normalcy, because all of us been doing it for so long, and we can be performative and put the mask on. Mm-hmm. For the first time, I was scared to walk in those doors, Tyresa, because for literally 3 months when my mouth opened, I didn't know if I would cry or could I speak. And, Erika Duncan, when I come in, hello, it is professional. I didn't know how I was going to show up. And with the person I was working with to, be out of work and get back to work, she heard me say something in one of our conversations. And she said, Erika, you are trying to work, or she said, you're trying to mix your healing with your job, and you cannot do it right now. Mm-hmm. And that just woke me up. So to that question, at my lowest point, what I learned at my lowest point, you've got to give yourself time to heal from a divorce, heal. That's right. And we see all of this healing talk now on social media.
That's right.
It is real. And I had to learn it in my darkest days in 2021.
And I love that. I feel like I'm gonna answer it real quick. Because it's not as deep as an answer as you guys, but I feel like the best lesson I learned at my lowest, because mine comes from a lot of relationships where I seek love. I was trying to seek somebody to love me, to validate me, but I noticed that, and I had to keep telling myself, there is not enough love until I love myself. There's not enough love here. And I know that even moving forward, that goes for wherever I go in business, wherever I go personally, wherever I represent myself. If I love myself enough, I can walk anywhere in any room and know that God is with me, that I'm here, that he placed me here, that nobody can tell me that I can't be here. So yeah, I really do. That was my lowest point, where I kept trying to look for other people to tell me how to love myself, to tell me that this should be enough for you, to tell me that love shouldn't be like this. And I'm like, let me talk to God about what love is. And when I tell you that summer, last year, I think it was freshman year, God just taught me about what his love means, about what my love means to me. And it was a whole journey, but it definitely, like we said, we do not look like what we've been through, but it definitely gave me a flow that I truly am blessed and grateful for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Definitely.
awesome.
But I think we touched on the question of how God has helped you give yourself more grace. If we want to touch on that a little bit, like elaborate maybe a moment in our life where God's gave you some grace somewhere in your life.
Yeah. I can listen. Like I said, you get to 55, you've done some things, you've seen some things, but the time in my life where God gave me some grace, when I was going through my divorce, I was angry with God. Yep.
That's real.
I was angry because I felt like, right, I had done all the things that I was supposed to do to be a good wife and to be a good Christian and do, all the stuff. And yet, and I'm looking around at what I think other people's marriages were, and wondering, why couldn't mine, be good, right? And so I was angry. I was angry with God. And I just I let go of him. And I remember, and at that point in my life, I used to work for my church. Isn't that funny, right? And so I still had to show up. I would hide out up in the booth where I used to do, like, show the words on the screen. And I remember God showing me a vision, right? You know that whole footsteps thing, right? Mm-hmm. Where, it says God is, like he's carrying you when you only see the one footsteps. That's a minister was preaching his initial sermon, and he was talking about that. Then God gave me a different vision, and he showed me where, because I had let go of him, but he had a rope around my wrist and he was holding on to me even though I had let go of him. And that's when I understood grace.
That's awesome, Yolanda. When you said anger, it triggered something, because when my former husband had a stroke, 2017. So when you guys see me on heart disease and stroke panels, it is that is my platform here in the community. I will always speak out on it because it changes lives. Mm-hmm. I was angry. I was so angry. And I remember being on a bench. My son was about 8, and I took him to baseball practice. And I remember calling a girlfriend, and I was crying. I was whispering. I said, I feel like God is punishing me, because, he had the stroke. But if you know anything about a stroke, it's a whole family dynamic. And as the caregiver, as the one still working, I just could not believe what I was going through. And I was angry, for a while. But the grace God gave me was knowing and understanding that he has my back. Because of my performative ways and the strictness I was raised under, and making A's and B's only in life, I grew into worry. I was a worry wart. I got it from my dad. We worry, that you remember the saying, if you're going to pray, don't worry. If you're going to worry, don't pray. I said it all the time, but truth be told, I still would worry. Mm-hmm. I tell you now, at almost 55 years old, I have my moments where something, when I instantly come back and smile and say, God's got me. He's got my back. I may not be able to find what the particular role I want, or I may not, something happen where I'm like, how did this happen to me? God's got me. And when I I guess that's age a little bit, Yolanda, is experiences. But what I wrote on that question was, I finally believe, and I finally know. So I believe that's God's grace. Like, I didn't get it when I'm 80 and 90. I'm getting it in my mid 50s, that you don't got to worry.
That's right.
He's had you before. He will have you again.
That's right. I mean, listen, it's like, you think about the story of David, right? When he finally got to Goliath, right? He had this confidence that he could slay this giant because he had a history with God, right? He had already like killed the bear and killed the lion and, you know, did all that stuff. And so he had this history, right? He knew God's track record. So when he got to Goliath, right, it was like, that ain't nothing. And so the same with us, right? You live life long enough and you walking with him long enough. And again, it's not without, you know, the mistakes and all of those kinds of things and the disappointments, but you begin to, you know, God begins racking up like this track record in your life, right? And you see where you worried, right? Or I was depressed, or I was stressed, or whatever the things. And you know, and I still feel stressed sometimes, right? Thank God I haven't been depressed in some time, but something could happen, and I could get there, right? But even in those states, because you know, God has had this track record, not only my personal life and my professional life, and you mentioned that earlier, like with roles and things like that, that I know and that we know, right? That, you know what? Because sometimes I go, you know, I'm type A personality. I'm type A, right? And I'm a planner, and you know, and I'll get to the point and like nothing is working out. And it takes me a while sometimes. And I'm like, okay, all right, you know what?
Surrender.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's really deep, because I feel like even what my outcome from both those answers is, as much as we recite things, as much as we can tell ourselves things, it's all on the experience that we have. We just got to experience it to know that those words are real.
Like, right.
Absolutely.
You can tell me everything. You can tell me to repeat this. You can tell me, but once I get into the situation where I have nothing else to tell myself, that's where I believe those words. So I really love that. And I want to go into my next question of just, what are y'all no longer apologizing for? Like, what is the thing you no longer to yourself?
Like, not a doggone thing. I'm not apologizing for a doggone thing.
All my foolishness right now, I'm living my best life. But for me is I no longer apologize for putting myself first. My family is so sick of hearing the word self-compassion, because in the earlier days I used to say, I ain't cooking tonight, I got self-compassion now. I don't have to say it anymore. And I'm like, oh God, there she goes. I no longer apologize for putting myself first. I no longer apologize for owning my life. No more performing, being who I am truly meant to be. And I no longer apologize for making sure it looks right to you. And whoever you are, I no longer apologize for making it look right for you.
I am not apologizing for, like I said, not a doggone thing. But you know, in this season in my life, and I shared this with my sisters, you know, how in the last year and a half that God has just kind of put this confidence, right, that wasn't kind of always there. This I know I belong here kind of attitude, right? This, you know, I'm, you know, uniquely made, like you know, you don't have what I have, I don't have what you have, and not apologizing for where I am in my life, right? For the successes that I've had, you know, for and it's so funny because, you know, my name on Facebook is Yolanda Living My Dreams, right? The reality is that a lot of the things that are happening in my life right now are not even things I even dreamed about or even thought about. And it says that he does exceedingly abundantly above what you can ask or think. I didn't even think about some of these things. I didn't even know to think them. But I'm not apologizing for where I am, who I am, you know, who I'm not to you, right? Who, if I'm not what you want me to be, that's your problem. Yes. That's not my issue. That's your issue, not my issue. I was in the store. Was it today or yesterday? I forget, one of these days. And it was two young ladies, and this made me think about this. It was two young ladies, and they, you know, were shopping, and they was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I was like, "Why would you don't have to be? Just say excuse me. It's all right."
Guilty.
Right? But women do that.
Women do that. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not doing it. I don't do it anymore. Now, if it's something that I need to actually apologize for, now I'll do that, right? You hurt somebody, offend somebody, absolutely. Yes. But I'm mostly not sorry about anything
and
anymore.
I think both of you guys, that's something I'm ready to get to. I definitely am still in the I'm sorry category of training. I feel like it comes from just wanting to make sure I don't pick a fight with nobody, walking on eggshells when I grew up, maybe just how I talk to certain people, the reaction to trauma, certain things that I just want to make sure everything's okay around me because I'm not okay. So,
listen, give yourself grace. You'll get there eventually.
Yes. Because I feel like that really hit the nail what both of you said, and I really think both of your responses it's from confidence. Like it's confidence, it's the self-love, it's the grace you gave yourself, it's all the experience over the years of everybody you had to deal with, to where you're like, absolutely, I'm doing this for me, and I'm not apologizing for you. This is my peace. I'm protecting it. So I really love these answers, and I think what my last question is, what would you change if you stopped criticizing yourself and just start treating yourself as a best friend, as some support system? Like, stop going so hard on yourself.
And look, and we get ready to wind down in just a minute, but I think there's a fine line, right, between holding yourself accountable, wanting to grow and be better, right, pushing yourself to grow and be better, and beating yourself down, right? And you mentioned this earlier, Erika, where you were talking about how maybe you did a presentation and it didn't go so well, right? And so it's just a shift in your mindset of I every day I want to be a better version of me, right? If I mess up or make a mistake, or something is just not, as good as I would have liked it to be, I look at it and I go, okay, that could have been better. That could have been better. And literally, and it's that tone, right? It's not, dang, Yolanda, you always messing up, right? Because that's where that bad talk, right? You start making yourself the mistake, as opposed to seeing, you messed up, or it just wasn't as good as it should be, and just be like, okay, you know what, next time I'll do, if I have a next time, I'll do ABC or XYZ, right? And this is how I can improve that, and to make it excellent, right? And keep it moving. But there's a fine line between accountability, being accountable to yourself and others, wanting to grow, wanting to be better, and beating up on yourself. And that's where you have to be real careful, because you don't want to let yourself off the hook either. If there's some things that need to change, right? So we don't want
be honest with yourself,
right? We don't want to confuse that, but look at it objectively, as if you were somebody's manager, right? Somebody's manager, and here's your improvement plan. You can do these things, but you know what? These things, you need to improve in, but you know what? You're doing a wonderful job. And all these other things, just step it up a little bit. And that's how you have to talk to yourself and treat yourself.
Yeah.
What's your
my answer is everything. Excuse me. I know, Yolanda, I believe when we finally got to know each other, I was already on my journey. So, but when I tell you, I and your audience, I am a living testimony to what stop beating yourself up looks like. It has changed everything. Between the self-confidence, what I learned is something called self-energy. I've lost over 70 pounds because I have let go of worrying about everybody and everything. So I wish I can go on and on, but it has changed everything, because when I lay down in the bed at night, there were times I couldn't even sleep because I would start ruminating on what went wrong. And I wish I would have said it. She better not say that. I would have a whole play. I would have a whole play happening in the bed at night because I was still playing what went wrong and what I didn't say and what I should have said, and none of that. I sleep so well now. It's I mean, there are things, even last week as I was preparing for a big week. Back in the day, I wouldn't have slept at all until this week was over. I've been sleeping hard, and it's because you learn
hard. She said hard.
Like I wake up and I'm like, wow, I slept. You know, I haven't been able to see the Stanley Cup. I hadn't seen the end of these games because I'm knocked out. I'm at peace, Tyresa. So to the end, that it changes everything, and that peace, it truly is peace. What another Bible peace, that the peace that passes all understanding.
That's right.
And I should be worried.
Right.
I should be. I shouldn't. So I just can't take. You know, I encourage the audience. I know we went fast and self-compassion, but if you could just look it up for yourselves and let it become something for you in your journey, you won't forget it. It has changed everything for me.
And I will say, as a younger woman, for anybody listening that's younger, I will say put into practice about what you need to do. Where is that voice really coming from when you criticize yourself? Because I think that's where we really don't talk about, like, how we were treated growing up. Where does the voice, is it your voice or is it somebody else's voice?
That's right.
The second you do that, tell yourself that I'm only trying to coach you to be better. It is not criticizing just because we want you to be like somebody. It's not criticizing because we think you're doing lazy things. It's just to be better, to be productive. So I really think that's something that we all should ask ourselves. Where's that voice? Who is really saying that? Because it's not me. So,
you just pay somebody $220 an hour.
Let me tell you. Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, right? Because, you know, so if y'all didn't see earlier episodes of Boss Gals Talking Tea, episode, I think 2 back in May or June of 2025, you know, we were talking about imposter syndrome and, you know, it's talking about perfectionism, right? And I used to be a perfectionist. And I love my mother. God blessed her. You know, rest in peace, mama. But that perfectionism and that criticizing, it was her voice, right? She didn't mean to do it, but she did it. And so you are spot on with saying, whose voice is that? Whose voice is that? It could have been a parent. It could have been a teacher. It could have been, you know, a relative, a friend, any number of people who, you know, were very critical of you, and you keep playing that voice in your head.
Yep, I call it the tapes.
That's
the tapes in my head.
Yes,
hitting rewind, hitting rewind, play. Throw them tapes away. Throw them away.
That's right.
So, well, tonight, this was an amazing session where we literally just went over self-compassion. Y'all got to talk about grace. Y'all got to talk about, come on, y'all. Everything that we just put into this podcast, into this whole video, I think this is something to replay back to yourselves and listen to. This is something that you need to practice every single day, especially young, going into the double nickels, like everything that
double nickels at chapter 55.
Oh, yeah. Look at the shirt. It's so cute.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta give a shout out to So Clean, SOQLEAN. I found this guy on TikTok, and he designed my little. I can't stand all the way up, y'all, because I got on bike and short. But he designed my T-shirt for me.
I love it.
Right. I've been fabulous since June of 1971. I just, you know, I had to give him a little shout out.
Yes. So let's go ahead and pour our drink, because we're about to give a cheers, because it's Yolanda's 55th birthday today. And everybody who didn't wish her happy birthday, go on the Instagram. Make sure you tell her happy birthday, because this is definitely a milestone that you should definitely be blessed and grateful for. I'm so happy that you have invited me here. Erika, I'm so happy for your answers that definitely changed my life. And just really blessings to all of you. I pray for all of you and to becoming our own best friends.
Yes.
Cheers for having me, Yolanda. Cheers for having me, Yolanda.
I all want it.
Cheers to 55. Take a little sip. There we go.
Yolanda, thank you. You could have had anyone on your special day. I feel honored you asked me to be here today. So
no, this had to be the topic to celebrate 55, a journey of self-compassion and still becoming, right?
Amen. That part. Yes.
and still becoming. So listen, family and friends, thank you so much for joining me on my birthday and celebrating with me. Can't wait till our next episode of Boss Gals Talking Tea. Good night, y'all.